Have you ever invited someone somewhere to an event or something and their response was, no, I can't be around people, I'm an empath? And you're like, what? There's a whole trend of being an empath as we become more aware of human development. And today I want to distinguish being an empath and an identity of that versus developing and cultivating the skill of empathy. So at a certain point in development, we actually want to become more self-aware, we want to become more confident, we want to develop a stronger sense and a healthier sense of self. And while that's an important first step, ultimately, that sense of self is sort of the gateway between relaxing open as awareness itself. And so, at a certain point, we re-examine all of those places where we made fixed identities and need to learn to relax them. And here's a real place that I see some people getting stuck, you see, because if our typologies and systems, which I'm a big fan of and I think can be really useful maps to help us be more self-aware and learn about others, but ultimately we want to say, am I looking at these systems and these typologies, like being an empath, through a fixed mindset or through a growth mindset? Because if I'm looking at it through a growth mindset, I don't want to adopt an identity that's actually going to limit me. You see, if I have realized that I have a certain degree of empathy already developed as the skill, and then my ego structure makes an identity around that and say, oh no, I'm an empath, so I can only do this, and it has to be like so, and I can't do this and this and this. Right? Then I'm actually fixing my development and really limiting my greater potential. Instead, if I look at empathy as a skill that most humans have the ability to develop, then I can see myself in that process and I can find out where I am and then what's next to help me to continue to grow that. Does that make sense? So one of the developmental markers of as we progress in becoming and actualizing more of our potential is our ability to take perspectives. And the younger we are, the less mature we are in the adult human development process, the more self-absorbed and more often only able to take our own perspective we are. And as we develop, one of the markers of some of the developmental psychologists is the ability to take multiple perspectives, not only of another person, but simultaneously my perspective and their perspective, and being able to hold that, and then also being able to take multiple perspectives, even with different time orientations or different group orientations. And so becoming more empathetic is one of those steps along that way of being able to take more perspectives. Now, the other thing that happens at the level of being able to mentally take perspectives is that my nervous system and energetic system starts to open and be more open to life. And that's one of the steps along the way from being more closed and isolated as an island or an individual in this experience to being able to relax open my system until I feel connectedness with all of life. And so, example, if I'm identifying myself as an empath and then I'm using that to say, no, I can't be around people, right? That was actually just an important part of the process where I started to open and being able to sense more of life. And now here I'm using my mind to protect myself and make this identity and not put myself in situations that would help me continue to develop empathy to the full capacity so that I'm wide open as all of life. And within the larger awareness, yes, lots of other emotions and energies and experiences are evolving. And so I can't be unified with everything if I don't allow my system to be able to be open and feel. Several things that can really help in this developmental process of fixing my identity as an empath to developing empathy into the highest expression of the skill is being able to ground into my feet and legs, being able to center into my central axis, being able to use my breath to help digest and release anything that's arising, to be able to then not let something stick. So I want to learn to be able to be more expansive and open while still grounded and centered, and that way something that I'm picking up, I can use my breath to help it digest and release out of my system. So instead of having to then avoid whole aspects of life or use this identity of being an empath to hide from life, instead I just keep going but I also activate more of my potential, my grounding, my centering, my breath, my emotional intelligence, my ability to feel and release. And then that allows me to go all the way through to be able to be open as awareness itself. So, if you are someone that has begun to develop the skill of empathy, be careful not to fix this identity upon yourself. Look at this as a skill that's beginning to develop and continue to hone that skill all the way until you can stay open in the face of whatever's arising within yourself and with others without turning away, nor without it sticking. That is your practice, Mr. and Mrs. Empath.